you go. There you go, homie. There you go. It's so dark in here, bro. You know.
Oh, this is lip burn too.
Man,
This lip burn. Lip burn. This ain't Snellville. Lip burn.
man, I already did my research, bro.
Your mic is live.
Here, bro.
Your mic is live, bro.
Man, I know I ain't gonna say like Jesse Jackson, man. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
cut them head off. I need some more light in here, bro.
Nah.
Need some more light, man.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm looking at you. You good.
Let me see, man. Hey, man. I can't see the people, man. I got this little shorty, man.
There you go. Look at that.
This little shorty.
Look at that. Look at that.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is your host, Joaquin Thompson, coming to you live from the Daily Bread Radio Show. And we coming to you live from not Snellville, but from Lilburn. Hey, we done moved, we done changed our studio, we done upgraded. We done moved into our new studio location at 2450 Stone Mountain Highway. And the new studio is absolutely, it's incredible, man. It's just, man, it's super incredible, man. So, I mean, that's what we were just talking about. The seminars are on deck. They come in with the quickness. So I'm glad that some of the topics that I want to talk about tonight is right in line with what we need to be doing as people. What we need to be doing as we go into, as the businesses say, into the fourth quarter. We're getting there. Because once we get out of September, you only got October, November, and December. And that's it. Then once we do them 3 months, we're going to start it all over again. So it's very important that we start to just plan ahead. Because a lot of the things that we're doing, we're not really planning for it. And in business, you have something that's called opportunity cost, right? And opportunity cost is when you have the ability to spend or invest in a certain product, service, or investment, and you look at the opportunity to either get a return on your investment, which is ROI, or if there's a potential loss. So a very easy way to look at that is opportunity cost is, say you have some tickets to the Jay-Z and Beyonce show, and you decide and the tickets are worth $300, and you decide you know what, hey, I'm gonna go to the concert. If you decide to go to the concert, then you have a lost opportunity cost because you could have potentially sold the tickets and recouped the $300, and then, so now that was an opportunity that you may have missed. And they're not always bad, but just sometimes we have to look at the way that we spend our money and the way that we think ahead. Because if you're just thinking and planning for today, like, okay, I'm in September, it's 2018, this is what I want to be doing, next weekend. But we got to start thinking 5-year, 10-year plans. And some of the topics that I want to talk about tonight are so timely. And it's funny because I was just reading a passage in the Bible, a scripture in the Bible from Proverbs, and it's just so indicative of what we need to be talking about and what we need to be thinking about. And this is in the Bible, so a lot of times I'll revert back. And before I get into this, I know I've been jumping on. I'm just so excited about the new place. But for all of our listeners that are joining us for the first time, the Daily Bread Radio Show is a show about personal finance from a spiritual standpoint. We don't do religion on the Daily Bread Radio Show because we know, as many people do, when you start doing religion, things can get a little murky, right? They can get a little, my religion, I'm Baptist, you're Protestant, I'm, non-denominational, people start to argue about their beliefs. So we get all of that. But on the Daily Bread Radio Show, what we do is we ascribe to one idea, and that is it's only one God. So everything that we do it from a spiritual standpoint. We're gonna do it with professionalism, we're gonna do it with integrity, keeping that in mind that it's just one God at the top. So we don't get into all these other different things, but everything that we do, we want to make sure this is orderly, that it's on time and it's orderly. And the thing with that is our reference for me is the Bible. Some people read the Quran, some people have other, Book of Mormon. That's cool. That's your religion. Hey, everybody do their own thing. For me, it's the Bible. So a lot of times I'll refer back to the Bible when I read different scriptures. And if it's in the Bible, I always just say, if it's in the Bible, if nothing else, it should make you just think, right? It has to make you think, like, for it to be the word of God, or as some people say, it's a lot of dialogue about, this is definitely, man-made, King James got involved, other people, their interpretation. I get all of that. But the thing that you have to ask yourself is this: what other book has been around the entire time that man has been in existence? What book? And see, that's why a lot of times when people start questioning things, that's when you have to ask yourself, like, wow, like, what book, anything, what can you name that's been around since man existed on the planet? And that's the Bible. So I know people may say the same thing about the Quran. I respect that. So with that being said, let's look at one of the scriptures in Proverbs. So if you look at Proverbs chapter 13 and look at verse 4. And verse 4 says, and this one is the New King James Version. So sometimes the wording gets a little different. But if I read it and you interpret this, it's only a certain number of ways you can interpret something, right? Because sometimes when people say things, you might say, oh, they didn't mean it like that. But sometimes when they say certain things, it's only one way for you to interpret it, right? So Proverbs chapter 13, verse 4. Now listen to this. It says, the soul, and this is deep. It says the soul of a lazy man, and it has man in italics, meaning they stress that. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing. But the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. Now, how many, I don't know how many different ways you can interpret that. I mean, it's just, so, with that, it just ties into what we're doing on the Daily Bread Radio Show. We're on episode 69. Episode 69. So why is episode 69 important? Episode 69 is important because yesterday I was looking at some old videos. I call them old now, but it was episode 30. Archives.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking at some of my archives. Episode 30, and I was on episode 30 talking about, hey, we're going to do 1,000 shows. Now we're up to episode 69. That's a weekly show. So we're going on, a year and 3 quarters at this point. Because February next year will be 2 years that we've been doing the show every week without ceasing. And we're going to continue to do the show without ceasing because...
How you like that view?
How I like that view?
How you like that view, brother? I'm just saying something. How you like that view?
God, you interrupted my show.
That's beautiful, don't it?
You interrupted my show, man.
Oh, I get it. They expect that.
Man, they don't expect that, man. We got to listen to, people dialing in. But let me give you the number to the show, too. New studio. So, we got the same number?
Same number. Yes, sir.
678-381-1973.
Yes, sir.
678-381-1973. Give me a call. Let me know what you think, what's on your mind. You may have a question about personal finance, but tonight, what I want to talk about has to do with cash flow. It has to do, tonight's topics, everything that we're going to talk about tonight is going to be geared towards cash flow. So with that being said, I see we have some people that have joined us on Facebook Live. I know we have people on DKM Radio, got a producer in the studio. But this is what my challenge to you all, and this is what I do every week on the Daily Bread Radio Show. Don't listen to me having conversations about personal finance, throwing out these different, items that if you took action on them, it can change your life. I mean, literally, it can change your life. So tonight, what I want you to do, I got a little exercise that I want to do with you all. And let me see that little whiteboard, man.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to do a little exercise because one of the things that I want to start doing, and we're going to come in, I mean, we got our logos behind us, Gorilla Publisher, DKM Radio, Daily Bread Radio Show, and appreciate that. And what about?
There you go. I got you.
Oh
Got
man,
you.
look at this. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you think about it, and we're gonna do I'm gonna do a simple version for you. So what we're gonna talk about first is something that's called, and I need you all to take some notes at home. And like I said, you can call into the station 678-381-1973, 678-381-1973, and we'll give you all some homework as well. What I want you all to do when you get off the air tonight, after you listen to tonight's show, take some time, very simple. Only thing you have to do is go to Google and put in income statement, and press enter, and more than likely it's gonna bring up all these different types of income statements that you can use, because in businesses use income statements. That's how they manage their businesses, that's how they manage their money, that's how they know if they're being profitable or not. And what we need to do, and this is something that I came up with years ago, maybe it's probably been 10 or 12 years ago now, probably longer than that, maybe like 15 years ago. 95%, here's a statistic for you, 95% of the people in the US do not have a household budget. 95, so keep that in mind. So 95% of the people don't have a household budget. So these are just facts, and you can look these up. Only 5%, so listen to this, only 5% of the people in the US have written goals of things that they want to do in life. 95%, 5%. But those are two different things that we're measuring. But I'm gonna give you a third. Somewhere around 10%. It used to be 20, but they done driven it down now. Somewhere around 10% of the people in the US and in the world, because this applies to the United States and to the world. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, because I want you all to just marinate on why learning about an income statement is important. 10% of the people in the US and 10% of the people in the world control 90% of the money and the assets.
Say it again.
I know, man. That right there, woo, it's getting, hey boy, it's getting, we warming up in here.
You're getting hot.
Hey man, I had to take my hat off. This is my fun hat. So if you ever see me with this, I mean, if you see me with this hat on, boy, we about to have some fun. But listen, I need you all to take heed to that. Right, I'm gonna put this over here, and just think about that for a moment. Just think about that. In the United States, and in the world. So if you look at the United States, 10% of the people in the U.S. 10%. So it's 300 million people in the U.S. So 10% would be 30 million people, right? So 30 million people control 90% of the money and assets in the United States. 30 million. And guess what? The other 270, listen to this number now, 270 million people are left with sharing 10% of the money and assets in this country. So think about this. I mean, it's just astounding. So just let that marinate a little bit. Just think about that. So just think about if you was, at your job, and it works like that at your job, in life, entrepreneurs, however you want to look at it.
Mhm.
Even wherever you work, it's 10% of the people where you work that make 90% of the money. That's why when you look at hierarchies, you have the CEO, and after you have the CEO, you have probably a president, board of directors, vice presidents. So when they start coming down, by the time they get down to frontline employees, that's why when you look at a company, all of the frontline, it could be hundreds and hundreds and thousands of employees. One CEO.
Mm.
CEO, how much is the CEO? The average employee, the average household, not employee, the average household income in the United States is how much? I'm giving it to y'all tonight. If y'all not taking notes, I'm telling you, I'm giving it to you tonight. The average household income is how much? 53,000. 53,000. The average household income. So if you figure a household income is 53,000, that's typically two people and probably like 2.5 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start talking about the CEO of one company, CEO of one company could be 30 million, or you could be like Jeff Bezos of Amazon, right? 68 billion.
Ooh,
Now, how many 53,000s?
made my hair hurt.
How many 53,000s can you put in 68 billion?
That made my hair hurt.
Right? So when you start counting, count the number of people that can go into that. Let's bring it down a little bit. Jay-Z and Beyonce, they said, okay, we at $1 billion. We maybe at 2 billion, right? That's two people. So two people, and that's why I've been marinating on this myself for a while, just thinking. This is how it works in every aspect of our life. That's why it's so important. This is why it's important for you to understand an income statement and how an income statement works. This is imperative for you to know this. Why? Because the 10% understands how income statements work, while the 90% don't.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what they need? They need the 90% to be the entree, right? That's my nickname that I call for it. For people who don't know about or don't take the time to learn about personal finance, you the entree,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you go to a dinner, right? If you go to a dinner and they bring you out to the table and everybody at the table eating with you,
Mm.
you the entree, you the chicken. So, not just the chicken, but you don't eat chicken. Well, you the salmon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat salmon. Well, you the veggies. You could be a vegan. It don't matter. They'll bring out a tray of vegetables. But if you don't understand an income statement, your income statement, what your income statement means to you, guess what happens? You become the entree. Then the person that does understand the income statement, quote unquote, the president, the serial entrepreneur, the successful entrepreneur, guess what they do? While you giving money away, wasting it, I'm spending it on this, I'm gonna buy some clothes, I'm gonna buy this, guess what they doing? While you buying, guess what they making money.
Yeah.
While you spending, because everything, why do you think it's called cash? Listen to this word, cash flow. What does flow mean? Cash, just listen to the word, cash flow. What else does flow mean? If you're talking about a river does what? It flows.
Yeah.
It flows. So that means that nothing is stagnant, right? Nothing stays the same. It's like Chris Hope talked to us about a few weeks ago when he was talking about the infinite banking concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference of being in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, nothing is moving. It's just a stagnant body of water. What happens with stagnant bodies of water? And you can do this experiment. Take some water and put it in a bowl in your house and just leave it out on the counter. Just leave it there. And leave it there for a few days. When you come back, guess what you're gonna see? All kinds of stuff. Stuff that you ain't even, you like, what kind of bug is that? What is that growing in there? But if you have water that's flowing, even if the faucet drips, guess what? It still flows, right? It's flowing. So cash flow is learning how your money is flowing, because If you don't understand an income statement, then you don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability. You don't understand the you don't understand the difference between income and expenses. And those are the two components of, look, I gotta get a big one. Look, this is my little boy, y'all. I gotta show y'all my little boy. we gonna get a big one. Look, I gotta use what I got, right? This is one. And then I got to erase it. But I love it. We're gonna get us a bigger board. We just moved into a new studio. But listen to this, all jokes aside, I'm gonna stop joking for a minute. If you're at home or wherever you at, get out a piece of paper and let me share something with you real quick. I mean real quick, all right? Income statement. You hear people talking about top line, right? Top line is, let's just take this. We're gonna take this show and just break this down. Just because sometimes we just need to take your time to learn things and not just rush through, right? Not just, oh, what's this? Listen to this. If you learn this concept and go Google it, we Google everything else. Where is this? How is that? Go Google income statement, get an image of one, print it out, and put it this way. I got one better for you. Daily, listen to this, Daily Bread Radio Show at yahoo.com. Daily Bread Radio Show at yahoo.com. If you email me and say, hey, send me a copy of the income statement, of the Daily Bread Radio Show income statement, I'll send you a copy of it. I'll get you a copy sent to you, right? I have an interactive, listen to this, I have an interactive income statement, but it's not labeled as an income statement, it's listed as a household budget. Let you marinate on that for a minute. So top line on the income statement is what? Revenue. Some people use revenue, some people say sales. Why is it? And you hear people saying top line, right? And then you hear people, and you probably use this word yourself, like, what's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? When you're doing business, what's the bottom? That's going to impact the bottom line. You know what the bottom line is? The bottom line is, that's where you determine your net, listen to this, net profit or net loss. I'm giving it to you tonight. I'm giving it to you. Top line is revenue. Bottom line is net profit or net loss. So you might be asking yourself, like, oh, okay, I got that. Top line, revenue, sales, bottom line. But I'm not in business. I'm not. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because on an income statement, look at this. On an income statement, it says revenue. And you can look this up for any company. Any company. We right across from Nissan. I seen Office Max. I seen Barreco, Amazon, Starbucks, Nike. Everybody on Nike now. Everybody talking about Nike. Okay. Go look at their income statement. Right? Learn to read income statements. But for you, your top line is what? Income. Income. The only thing you got to do is, you can draw a line through revenue, or you can leave revenue. It's your income. Your income. Not your gross income either. That's a no-no. That is gross for you to use your gross income. That's gross. That's just like, that's like farting in church, man. That's like the preacher preaching and you blue. You know what I'm saying? That's gross. So don't even, and see, that's how they get you, that's how you get caught in a trap. I'm giving you some insider information. That's how you get caught in a trap. When you go and apply for a car loan, listen to this, car loan, when you go to apply for a mortgage and they ask you what's your income, what do they use? They use your gross income. And I'm not gonna get into that. let me just be simple. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to give you the simple or the short version. The short version is you never want to use your gross income in calculating anything. The reason being is this. That's not the money that you bring home. And if you read this book called the Bible, right? I'm just giving it to y'all tonight because we're in the new studio. Listen to this. That's why in the story of Jesus in the boat, right? What did he tell them to do? Cast out your nets. Listen to this. Cast out your nets. And what did the disciples say? We've been fishing all night and we haven't caught anything, Master. What did he say? What was his response? Go back, go into the deep, and cast your net, N-E-T, your net income. I don't care how much you make. You could be making $1 million gross, and you can have a net. Your net income might be $750,000. I'm not gonna do that with you tonight. I'm just giving it to you so that way you'll know, and take some time to go back and research some of this stuff. So back to the income statement. Top line, and somebody called me. I see a lot of people. Give me a call, man. Let me know y'all out there. 678-381-1973. Let me say it slow. 678-381-1973. If you got a question, concern, you just want to say, hey man, you giving it to us, you can call in and say that, but just, give us a call in the studio. Listen, cause we got to sit in the studio. We just moved into a new studio, so we need to make sure that the phone lines are working. So give us a call, let me know what you think. Top line, revenue, sales, right? But for you and for me, we put in our income, our net income. So let's just say our net income, I make $70,000 a year, but after taxes, FICA, benefits, I might have some child support, alimony, whatever. That number that's in that box, because you know the number that's in the box, right? The number that's in the box, that's your net income. The money that you bring to the house, that's your net income. The money that you're gonna pay your bills with, that's your net income. You put that number at the top. So if my net is 50, say my net is 50,000 a year, even though I make 75, but after taxes, I make 50, then I'm gonna use 50,000 a year as my top line, right? 50,000 a year, okay. So I'm doing like what, a little over 4,000 a month. Okay, so I'm doing like a little over 1,000 a week. So let's just use 1,000. So you take that 1,000, and that's your top line. So I'm gonna just use that as my example. That's 1,000. That's your net income on your top line. So after you have your net, what I do, this is just me, you set yours up the way that you want to, but after I have my net income listed out, the first thing that I put after mine is I gotta have some tithes, right? And I gotta have some savings. I got those two, right? So once I do that, right, I'm gonna take out my tithes, I'm gonna take out my savings. Controversial topic, some people like, oh, the minister getting all the money, all this, that, and other. Don't matter. It don't matter. Because again, in this book he said what? Bring me your first fruits. So if you're making $50,000, where did that come from? Came from God, right? So if you bring in 50, you say, well, I don't want the preacher. Don't worry about what the preacher do. Your role is to be obedient. When you give it to the preacher, I don't care if the preacher take your money and go to, not that, I don't care if he taking it by a helicopter, okay? No, plane. A lot of people getting into, man, the minister got a jet and my car don't run. Don't matter. Don't matter. Because when you sow in your life, when God steps in and shows you favor, it ain't got nothing to do with your minister. So I ain't gonna get on that tonight, because I know a lot of times the way people feel about that, but let's just keep moving on down. So you take out your tithes, And then you got your savings. Now, you really should be trying to save, and the rule of thumb for tithing is what? How much? 10%, right? So you made 1,000, so you're gonna put 10% in, what you got? That's 100. Your 100, you're gonna put your 100 in the church, right? So you say, okay, cool, I got my 100 in the church. Next thing, this is not what I think you should do. These are laws that I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing with you laws like gravity. This is a law. This is a natural law. Tithing, you should put in at least 10%. And the way it was explained to me was this: you tithe 10%, anything above that becomes what? An offering. I'm not a minister, I'm just sharing with you what somebody shared with me. But stay with me. Income statement, 1,000 net, take out my tithes, that's 100. The next thing, what's the next thing that you should take out? Money for you. You should pay yourself first before you pay anybody. Nobody's more important than you. You don't work for it, you get up every morning. You shouldn't pay anybody before you pay yourself. This is a law. In The Richest Man in Babylon, if you haven't picked up that book, easy read, pick it up. In The Richest Man in Babylon, he says this: a part of all you earn is yours to keep. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. He was talking about saving 10%. Some people might say, I don't make enough to save 10%. Okay, well start off at 1% and work your way up. Get it 2 and 3. Listen to what I said. I said before you pay rent, mortgage, car note, you got to get in the habit of putting something away for yourself. You first, not just for yourself, first, before all the money go away. But most people, that 95% that I was talking about earlier, they do it in reverse. They get paid, pay all of their bills, and then go to church looking for a blessing. And then when they say, are you going to tithe? You say, I ain't got no money to tithe with. Are you going to give an offering? I don't have no money for that because I done paid all my bills. Mm-hmm. You got it in reverse. You got to flip it. You got to be like, hey, look, I done paid my, listen to this. And it takes you thinking like this. Think about it. And this is how I think about it. So even, so if you say, hey, I tried that and it don't work. Let me give you a different perspective and a different way to look at it. The next time you get a check, tomorrow Friday, so everybody know we get paid on Friday. Some people get paid on Thursday, right? But on Friday, a lot of people get paid on Friday. I want you to think about this, right? The next time you get paid, the next time, whatever amount it is, $300, $300,000, $1 million, $10 million, whatever that is, the next time you get paid, and you look at that money, whatever it is, and you say, look, before I do anything, right here, your father said, look, I need for you to give me 10% of what I give to you. And your father is who? God. If God was right here, and say, hey, you got a good job. Oh, you got the promotion. Oh, you got the new job. Oh yeah. Got the new house. Oh yeah, new car. Oh yeah. Check this out. I need to get 10% before you do anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. Just do that for me. And if you can say with a straight face, like, I would give it to you, God, but I ain't got it. Mm. I just don't have it. If you could say that to God, and then when you need a blessing, need help, if you could say that to God, I'm telling you, if you start saying that, thinking like, man, and it says that's also in the Bible. It said, would you steal from God? I was like, oh my goodness, that's what got me to tithe. When I seen that, I said, God dang. I thought about my kids. I thought about the times I thought about when I had a repo and I didn't have a car. I thought about the time when my credit was so jacked up. The only car I could get was a car with an oil leak. I couldn't even, the car was leaking oil and I still had to go buy it because that's all I could afford. But guess what? God was still making that happen for me. So when I read that, I said, well, you know what, hey, here you go. And even if I miss, guess what? So, and we all us not perfect. So I'm not preaching. I'm just sharing it. We're just having a dialogue. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I gotta pay such and such, or I gotta do this. Guess what I'll do? I owe you. It's just like you. It's just like you do. You know, like with my producer. If my producer gave me some money and said, hey man, I need 10% interest back, or I need you to pay me 10%. If I don't pay him this week, then next week is what? It's double. You do it with your mortgage. If you don't pay your mortgage this month, guess what? Next month, double. You don't pay your car note this month, next month is what? Double. You got to treat your money the same way. Pay you first. Tithe, and if you're not into tithing, find an organization that you feel is worthy of your money and give it away. Give it away. Help somebody with something. Goodwill, homeless shelter, women's shelter, somebody. But you can't keep all of the blessing to yourself. You can't keep it all to yourself. And we're going to get there. But think, let me share this with you. Do you know in the Amazon, have you ever seen a monkey trap? Have you ever seen how they catch a monkey? What comes to mind? You think like, how would you catch a monkey?
Banana.
A banana or a cage?
Yeah. Put a cage in a banana.
You put a cage in a banana?
A big banana in a cage, man.
Oh. I thought you said you would lay a banana down next to the cage. No, listen to this. And that's what everything that when you just marinate on this stuff. Tonight, marinate on what I'm sharing with you. Listen to this. You know how they catch a monkey? And you can Google this.
Mm-hmm. How they do
They take a coconut,
Mm-hmm.
right? They take a round coconut. And this is in the Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They take a round coconut, they clear all the stuff out the inside, right? They bore a hole in the coconut, but they bore a hole just large enough for the monkey. This is the monkey hand. Now I'm a monkey.
Yeah.
Right? Eat. I got the monkey. remember Richard Pryor used to say that? He got a monkey foot, Miss Rudolph. But listen, the monkey, they take the coconut and they put nuts. They put nuts in the coconut,
Okay.
right? Like peanuts.
Yeah.
Inside there, they bore a hole. So just imagine this. They bore this hole, but the hole is just large enough for the monkey hand to go in this way, squeeze his hand through.
Yeah.
Not like loose, but the monkey can smell the peanuts like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Put their hand into the coconut, right? Grab the nuts,
Oh Lord, he can't get it out.
right?
Hand ain't coming out.
What happened?
Hand ain't coming out.
Why not?
Cause he got his hand gripped around them doggone peanuts,
And what?
and he won't put the peanuts.
And
down.
he will not
Put the peanuts.
let it go. And he will stay there in this coconut. Now it would be simple to just do this. Look.
Yep.
And go about. Look how easy that is. Stick your hand in, grab it. You can let it go and go out.
Yeah.
It be gone. When they come the next day, they capture live monkeys because the monkey got his hand around them nuts.
Yeah.
And he holding it and he won't let it go.
That don't sound right.
That's a metaphor. I know. That's a metaphor for the way that we are with money and blessings. Sometimes we grab on the thing so tight, we won't let it go. And guess what happens? We get caught up. You get caught up. You can Google that. That's how they catch. They catch live monkeys like that. And when they come, that monkey is gripped onto them peanuts. And will not. The monkey can easily do this and just,
There you go.
but he ain't thinking that. He ain't
I
thinking that.
want them nuts.
Income statement.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about tonight. Top line is revenue, sales, your net income. We done put in our tithes, we done put in our offering, and so the next step, right? So you got your tithes, so you put in 10%. So you start off with 1,000, now you got 800, right? So I'm using my whiteboard. So now we down to $800. So now you say, okay, I got 800.
Mm-hmm.
Now what comes out? We got the car note, we got what else we got to pay? We got to pay the insurance, we got to pay the mortgage, we got to pay the credit card bill, we got to pay the daycare, what else we got to pay?
Mm.
But, I mean, what else?
Got a condo?
Yeah, I said car note, we had to pay the insurance, we had to pay the mortgage, we had to pay the rent.
Gotta eat.
Oh, we got to eat, got to get some groceries.
Yeah, gotta eat.
What else we got to do? Oh, you know we got to go to the club, got to put the club. You know we going out, got to go on a trip.
Gotta get them Nikes.
Oh, we gotta get them Nikes, because they've been talking about that all week. Gotta get them Nikes. Oh, we gotta get the kids some Nikes.
Yeah. they
Right,
gotta
right,
get something.
right.
Mhm.
And then I heard about this this new show, so I need to, get the Netflix. I gotta pay for the stars, because I gotta see Power. I gotta pay for this. And then when you do all of that, right? These are what's called your expenses. So check this out. Check this out.
Mhm.
I said, what's in your income statement?
Come on.
The two components of an income statement is income and, I'm gonna give you the simple one. Income
Mhm.
minus expenses equals profit
Mhm.
or loss,
Mm.
period. Now, think about your household. If you did this simple exercise, I told you to get out a pen or pencils, get something you can write with,
Mhm.
plug in your numbers. So you might say, oh, I got a bigger number. I make 10,000.
Come on,
Oh,
big
okay.
baller.
So you make 10,000, you big baller, you're getting blessed. But do you tithe though?
Mm. No, they don't do that.
Why ain't you listen though? Listen, when you start saying,
They don't die.
listen, and then when you start tithing, let me tell you what's gonna happen. And this stuff, what I'm sharing with you all, this ain't something I read. This is real. God's gonna test you.
Mhm.
Because you're gonna be paying. It's cool when you're paying the 10% of 1,000. Like, oh, I got 1,000. I pay. Because you got to build. It's like working out. You build up to that. Like, oh, okay, I put my 100 in there. I used to put 20 in church,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So now you got 1,000 coming in. But guess what? God come back and bless you. Now you're making twice as much money as you used to make, right?
Mhm.
Now you're making twice as much. Okay, now you're making 3 times as much. Oh, wait a minute. Now you didn't hit a lick.
Oh.
Let me ask you a question. If God blessed you today or tomorrow, with what size check? Which you want to be blessed with?
$10 million.
If God, so my producer said 10 MM. If God blessed you with $10 million
Mhm.
tomorrow, let's say tomorrow, Friday, you played the number 8898 and the Powerball mixed together came out for you.
God almighty.
You hit both. You hit the box, the straight, and the Powerball.
What you
10 million.
Mm-hmm.
You got 10 million. I got a question for you. You got 10 million. You already told your old lady, you call your mom and your dad, I hit the number. I got, everything gonna change, everything. We gonna do this. Think about this. 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it down. Let me say this. Are you gonna take out $1 million? Are you gonna be able to write $1 million check to your favorite place of worship?
Mm-hmm.
$1 million. Do you have enough fortitude, courage,
Come on.
guts?
Mm.
I mean, it's a gospel show.
Kahunas.
Kahunas. To write $1 million check and give it away
Mm.
to the church. Will your family let you? Listen what I said. Will your family let you? Because if you hit for 10 million and you came home with a $10 million check, do you think your family?
Some funny business going on.
Do you think your family will let you write a check to your favorite place of worship for $1 million?
Mm.
Because keep in mind now, the $1 million ain't for the minister. That's your thanks to who?
Yeah, absolutely.
To God.
Mm-hmm.
So you done put $1 million to God, and now you got to write another check for $1 million to who? You.
Mm-hmm.
You got to write yourself $1 million check. That'll leave you 8 million. How many people have you read about, heard about, seen that happens to? But I'm gonna break it down a notch. Say you go from making 50,000 to 150,000. Do you have the courage to give away $15,000 a year to your favorite place of worship? You know where you go. You on the, I go to church. I'm such and such AME. Will you write them a check every 2 weeks? $1,500 every 2 weeks. Would you do it? But you want to be blessed. But guess what that is? You know what that is? That's this. You got to be willing to let go and say, God, if you bless me with it, I'll be a good steward of it. Because all of it belongs to you. It ain't even mine. Because if you didn't give me the job, I wouldn't even have the money to give. Exactly. So I'm good with giving you 10% or whatever you give me. Trust me, you ain't got to worry about me giving you yours, because you can have that 10%. If when you give me these 100 million, them 10 million, look, that's on my vision board. Exactly. $1 million check. I wrote $1 million check out and put it on a vision board in my house. So I said, when the first time he give me 10 million, I don't care if he have me come up. Or I don't need to be, I can be anonymous. I'm cool with that. Because guess what? God don't need no audience. You know what he do. Income statement. So it don't matter the amount. Start off with your net, tithing, savings. Do them 2 steps first. Tithing and savings. Certain things have to be done in order. You can't do them in reverse. Right? You can't do them. It's certain things, they have to be, when you do certain recipes, they say boil the water and add it before you add the milk and eggs. Guess what happens if you do it in reverse? It don't come out right. Do them steps like that. Take out your expenses. Once you do this, and you can do it on a piece of paper, really. Once you do this exercise, this is what it's going to tell you. This is going to tell you in your household, whether or not you operating at a profit. Because if you do if you take all of this and remove all of your expenses, and you get to the bottom and you still got some money left, that's your profit. That means that your company, you and you incorporated, not you and you, but you and your family incorporated, right? If you're not single, if you're single, it's you and you incorporated. But if you're family, it's family incorporated. So family incorporated, if there's something left at the bottom, even if it's $1, there ain't nothing wrong with that. That means that your company is profitable. That means it's sustainable. But here's the thing. If you do that exercise and you get to the bottom and it says negative, it has a minus $1. Let me tell you the power of -1. If you do this exercise, this is what I make, tithe, savings, took out all my expenses, I got to my bottom line, because everybody know what the bottom line is, right? Everybody heard of that. You get to your bottom line, and your bottom line says you are negative $1. You are negative $1. My question to you is, what you gonna do? Are you gonna stop? And this is one of the best shows I've ever done, because he's giving it to me to share with you all. Listen to this. You know what's gonna happen? What most people are gonna do, right? Not the breadheads, not the people listening to our show. Most people are gonna do this. If you got to the bottom and you saw -1, what would you do? What would you do? Probably stop paying yourself. Right? You would cut that savings off. Like, I don't need it. I need more. And the other thing is what? People will stop tithing. Because they'll say, what? I'm negative $1. -1 means this. It don't matter how much your top line is. Your top line could be $1 million. And this is the income statement for a lot of people. They make $1 million a year. And when they take out all of those expenses, and they don't tithe or save, they don't do neither one of step 1 and 2. They start off at the top line, and when they get to the bottom, they're negative $1.
God almighty.
They made $1 million this year. They are negative $1. Negative. The number one reason families break up, I didn't say marriages, families. The number one reason families break up is what? Money and the lack thereof. A negative one. So if you end up with a negative one, what are you gonna do? If you say, okay, I'm gonna stop saving, that's hurting you. That's hurting you. You taking money from you. Or I'm gonna stop giving money. You gonna stop, so you're not gonna pay God? Like, man, you got you got guts. No, this is what you do. If you get down there and you see a negative one, you know what you're supposed to do? Go back and look at them expenses and cut some things out. Pull the cable. Ghost getting paid. He gonna get paid. 50 Cent getting paid. They ain't paying you to watch. They ain't paying you to watch Power. So them $13, you say, shoot, I don't need that. Matter of fact, Tommy already shot the little. Tommy already shot the girl. So call your cable provider and say, I don't need stars. And you start up there like, dude, are you gonna go on the trip? I want to go, but I really don't have an extra $1,000. It ain't gonna cost you $1,000. Yes, it is. Because the airline tickets are $450. The hotel room is $350. I gotta eat. You know I need an outfit. I can't come showing up without my outfit. I don't have an extra look. Okay. So you gonna come to the reunion? Ooh. Would love to. Just don't have it. Do you really need to be getting your hair done every week? Twice a week? Like, not really. You need to pay down these credit cards. Oh, you need to get rid of, you need to get rid of that.
You better buy a weed.
Get a $500. If you get a $500 wig, you can roll for a good little while. You ain't got to be spending $200 or $300 per hairdo. Like, baby, you beautiful as you are. You don't need, you spending $500 a month in hair, and you negative one.
Yep.
Just start. When you start moving those expenses, guess what it'll do? It'll increase your cash flow. It'll increase your cash flow. Now, I know we're at the top of the hour. Income statement. That's all I want to talk to you all about tonight. So tonight, what I want you all to do, wherever you at in the world, I see people on from New York. I see Charlie. I see you on, Charlie. HBCU or HU. You know, that's my homie from HU. I need to reach out to him. I've been saying I was going to call you, Charlie, but I haven't. You've been on my mind. But from New York to DC to London to Duval, just do this exercise. Get out a piece of paper. Top line, revenue, income. Just write your income on there. Tithe. You got to practice now. Tithing. Putting your 10% away to pay you. Take the rest. Put in all your expenses. Put in all your expenses. You get to the bottom line. If it says negative, you say, oh, shoot.
Something ain't right.
Something ain't right. I ain't calculated right. So you go back.
-2.
But guess what? If you get to the negative, don't go back and steal from yourself. Because that's kind of like, I don't know how smart that is for you to steal from yourself. Because I know you're smarter than a monkey, right? I know you're smarter than a monkey. You can't get your hand out the nut. Let them go. Pull your hand out and get to moving. So that's an income statement. And if it's negative at the end, the solution is what? Decrease your expenses. Not even decrease, eliminate. Let's use big words this year. Eliminate. 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 And don't create them again. Because guess what? Ain't nothing like cash flow. That's why they call it flow. Now, Robert Kiyosaki came out with this book back in the early 90s. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? And in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I strongly encourage you, that's the book of the week. Hold on, man, hold on. You know I come prepared. I always come prepared, so I got so excited, I think I left my book. Let me see. Let me make sure I got it for the list. Let me see. Oh man, look at this. I got a treat for y'all. Check this out. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you don't have a copy, get a copy. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book, very simple, easy read, and he talks about learning what? Learning. Tonight we cover the income statement. Hopefully next week we'll do balance sheet, right? Those two financial documents will change your life, and you can modify both an income statement and a balance sheet, right? You can modify them to your life, and they work together in conjunction. This book will show you how to do that. This is his third book. It's the Guide to Investing, right? This is the third installment of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in between these two books is a book called Cash Flow Quadrant. I would strongly encourage you all pick up this one, read it first, then read Cash Flow Quadrant, and then read this one, right? Rich Guide to Investing. Now, I got two more books, because we know we always have a book of the week. Two more books that I think are extremely valuable about learning about cash flow. This next book is called Seeing the Big Picture by Kevin Cope. This is an outstanding book about finance. The topic of finance. And you may say, I'm not into finance. I don't need finance. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because if you don't know finance, yes, you do. Yeah, yes, you do. You know what I'm saying? You know, you be in school, you be like, I don't smell it. Yes, you do. You need to take a bath. Yes, you do. If you don't know finance, and if you're working in any kind, you might say, I'm an artist, I'm a cook, it don't matter what you do. If you don't know, you're the entree. If you don't know and I know, I'll take yours and I'll take your liabilities, your expenses, and guess what that'll be to me? My income and my assets. You need to learn this. Kevin Cope, Seeing the Big Picture. And it's an easy read, and you can understand it, because it's very simple. And the last book that I want to highlight tonight is called Financial Intelligence. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of books out tonight, but it's a reason for this. This book was written for people that are non-finance, I guess you would say non-finance driven, right? People who are not in the world of finance and accounting and business management. This book was written for you, right? Now, the good thing about this book is going to explain to you how an income statement works, how a balance sheet works, how all of those different, how you can measure debt and equity. So that's going a little deeper. But here's the thing, you don't need to have an MBA to understand that if you work and you get paid, you are a company. And if you don't run your company, you and you, or you and family incorporated, guess what happens? Your expenses becomes my income. Your liabilities become my assets. It's real simple, right? Somebody owns the house, somebody's paying rent. The person that owns the house is receiving rent from the rentor, right? Same thing with mortgages, same thing with buying clothes and cars and everything else. So what we got to do is get on the other side of that, so you got people paying you for what you do. And in the interim, if you're working a 9 to 5, that's fine. We all work. I got a 9 to 5, I love it. Ain't no problem. No, hey, no issue. But I run my 9 to 5 like a company. Because I'm always going to know my top line. I'm a tithe, I'm a save, and guess what? I'm looking at them expenses and I'm going to really scrutinize them. Sometimes I get a little, oh yeah, we can do that. And then sometimes I have to reel myself back and like, you know what? Turn it off. We don't need it. I mean, and then that's going to increase my cash flow. Pick this book up. Last thing I'm gonna hit y'all with tonight. See, this is a board game. This board game is called Cash Flow, which is what we've been talking about all night long. Let me tell you something about this game. I know we're going a little over, but trust me, this is gonna be worth your 5 minutes. This game probably costs about, I think I paid like $50 for it. I had this game in my house for a year. I brought it last year. It's like, hey, me and my wife we're gonna start playing this game. It's gonna teach you about life. It's gonna teach you. Now check this out. I'm gonna show y'all something that's real deep. This is deep. This is a game, right? As in like a board game, like Monopoly or Sorry or Life or any other board game, right? But guess what? Oh, now this is deep. Y'all may not be able to see this, but I'm gonna share this story with you all, and this should resonate with everyone. This is what you use, and I know you might can't see it from back there, but I'm gonna tell you what this is. You know what this is? This is how you play the game. You know what this is? What does that say?
That's the income statement,
And what does that say at the bottom?
balance sheet.
Income statement, balance sheet. This is how you play the game. The same guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, right? This book goes with this game. And you may say, oh, that ain't no big deal. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because guess what? The way you play the game is this. They give you a card. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Because at the top, income, expenses, and over here, guess what it says? Monthly cash flow. This is how you play the game. This is how you play the game. The way the game, now what makes it deeper than that is this. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. My grandson is 7, my granddaughter is 3. She'll be 4 next month, October the 2nd, right? My grandson, when I started playing this game, my grandson is 7, right? So while he's looking at YouTube and doing all this ninja stuff he want to watch, and Minecraft and Fortnite and all this foolishness, right? I said, hey man, come here, let me show you something. Set the game up and had him fill out his sheet, right? He put his, at the top of the sheet, it gives you a profession. When you start the game, you choose a profession. Guess what his profession was?
What's that?
Airline pilot. And when he saw, he put his name on it, and it says the salary for the airline pilot per month was $9,500. You know what my grandson said?
What he said?
I want to be a pilot. Because my man, look, my sheet, I was a janitor, right? I was a janitor. But guess what he did? Guess what I had him do? Fill out his income statement all the way down to his cash flow, just for him to fill it out. And the balance sheet. It took me about an hour. Because he kept saying, he said, Papa, what's taxes? Papa, what's a credit card payment? Papa, what's student loan payment? Papa, what's a home? He said, what's a home mortgage? I said, what? He said, home mortgage. I said, home mortgage. He said, oh, okay. He said, what's child expenses? He said, that cost?
That's you.
I said, bro, that's you. You gotta eat. I took an hour with a 7-year-old and showed him how to fill this out. Why is that important? That's important because as we teaching our kids different things about life and how to do different things, he's gonna learn at 7, income statement, cash flow, balance sheet. Now I'm gonna share this with you all, and then we're gonna end the show for tonight. I just wanted to show this to you so you can appreciate this. Now you see this? Y'all can't see me, but I'm gonna just put this up here first. Put it on somewhere.
No, all the way, all the way. Right there, perfect in the middle of the screen. There you go.
Look, you see this? You see this circle? This is how the game starts. You see this circle? Guess what the name of that circle is? The rat race. This circle, you start here, and this is the rat race. Guess what's in the rat race? Doodads, concert tickets, your car broke down, you had to pay something, you had to pay some kind of penalty, all the stuff that you're doing, like you got paid, you get your payroll income. This is the rat race. But the object of the game is to get out of the rat race as soon as possible. And when you get outside the rat race, you get to go on to this outer area, which is called the fast track. Now what's the difference is this. How do you get out of the rat race? You can't get out of the rat race until you have, listen to this. You can't get out of the rat race. Uh-oh, I'm breaking my board. Can't get out of the rat race until you have accumulated enough passive income to cover all of your expenses. Think about that. So you might be saying, what, we just talked about that. You got your income statement, tithes, you got your savings, you got your salary, right? That's your top line. Then you got that middle section, expenses. Say all of your expenses cost you $4,000. In order for you to get out of the rat race, which 95% of Americans are in the rat race, in order for you to get out of the rat race, you have to create passive income that exceeds your expenses. Why is that important? That's important because once you hit that point where you have passive income that exceeds your expenses, what can you do? Whatever you want to do. Because every month you're going to have money coming in that's going to cover your expenses and put money in your pocket. So why is that important? That's important because in the event that something comes up, like a restructure, like a downsizing, like I got hurt on the job, like, I was in an auto accident, guess what? It ain't no problem. Because you got income that comes in and covers all of your expenses. Why is that important? As we age, I'm 51. 10 years from now, I'll be 61. Now, I can't keep grinding the way that I grind today. I'll still be grinding, don't get me wrong. But it will be a better grind because I will have passive income that exceeds my expenses. So I ain't worried about it. I'm just like, I'm not. I can do what I want, go where I want, and I don't have that thing hanging over my head like, boy, I hope they don't do something crazy. Boy, I hope the economy don't matter. Because you can plan for that, manage your income statement, get your expenses in line, start working on your passive, and it's not easy, because if it was easy, guess what? That's why 90% of the people, well, 10% of the people manage 90% of the money and assets in this world. Because they figured this out. And guess what they start doing? Instead of them buying doodads, right? They start buying, look, you might not be able to buy a house right away, but you might be able to invest in something that has a return that you can consistently get. Chris Holt was on the show 2 weeks ago telling you about the infinite banking system. Yeah. You can start investing in yourself through that life insurance policy, and guess what? That money will be growing. And guess what? Once it gets to the point where it exceeds your annual expenses, your annual expenses might only be $20,000, $25,000. But guess what? What if you had $30,000 coming in? You good. The old term is what? You Gucci.
Exactly.
Dog, you Gucci. Hey man, so that's why we do what we do here at the Daily Bread Radio Show. Now, I want you to do this for me. If you don't do anything else, if you just do these two things for me this week. Do your income statement. If you need to go back and look at this episode, you can replay it. Do your income statement and see where you are. See where you are. Because the first thing that you need to do is do an assessment. I'm in healthcare, right? I'm a nurse. So when people come in, it don't matter what condition that you're in. You go to the ER, you come to the floor, you go to the doctor. What's the first thing the doctor does? Assess. What's your blood pressure? What's your weight? Right? Have you gained or lost weight? What's your cholesterol level? We do an assessment first, because that's going to tell me where you are. What's the symptoms? Oh, how long has it been happening? How long have you been having blurred vision? Assessment. When you're dealing with finances, it's the same thing. If you never take the time to find out if you winning or losing, and you losing, guess what happened? You're going further down, and you don't even realize it. Because guess what? You can't get your hand off them nuts.
Don't sound right, bro.
I know it don't sound right. I gotta say pecans. But hey, that's what it is. I wanted to bring that to y'all today. That's the deal. That's what I do. This is what I love to do. This is what I'm gonna keep doing, and I'm gonna be doing this from here on out. From here until I transition out of here, which will probably be a long time from now, because God ain't finished with me, like Steve Harvey said. Hey, don't boy, I love this song, man.
You gonna keep going?
Hey! Boy, I love this song, man. Hey, y'all get at me, man. You know, let me know what y'all think, man. You can email me. You can hit me at Joaquin Thompson Sr. at Daily Bread Radio on Twitter. Got a website coming soon. Hey, wait a minute. Don't wait my audience off, man. Hold on. Website coming soon. We got about another week. Hold on, man. Move. We got about another week. We doing some QA. DailyBreadRadioshow.com. DailyBreadRadioshow.com is coming. We got a few more tweaks. I'm going to say twerks. We got a few more tweaks. Hey, man, back up. We got a few more tweaks, and then we're going to be live. Y'all have a great week. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And do your income statement. Find out where you at.